There's something about a Nigerian boarding school at night that feels alive. Not alive in the sense of bustling students or ringing bells, but alive in the way shadows seem to breathe, walls seem to whisper, and empty spaces hum with things left unsaid. For the students of St. Mary's Girls' Boarding School in Enugu, the real school day didn't begin until after lights out. That's when stories came alive. That's when fear became real. Every student had heard of Madame Koi Koi, the legend passed down from senior to junior, growing with each retelling like a shadow stretching at sunset. They said she was a wicked teacher who met a brutal end, but her spirit refused to leave. She walked the hallways at night, her blood-red heels clicking against the concrete floors. Koi, Koi, Koi. But there was one part of the story that no one liked to talk about: the toilets. It was whispered that Madame Koi Koi's spirit found its favorite hiding place in the old, tiled bathrooms at the far end of the hostel blocks. Students claimed they heard footsteps echoing from empty stalls, taps running without touch, and the worst of all, someone calling their name from behind closed toilet doors. They called it the Koi Koi phenomenon. And once you heard your name, you had three choices: open the stall door, respond, or run. No one ever said what happened if you responded. That term, a new batch of junior students had just resumed. Among them was Chioma, a sharp-tongued but brave JSS 2 girl who had little patience for ghost stories. "Ghosts don't wear high heels," she scoffed one night, as the older students huddled in a circle, recounting tales of the red-heeled madam. But even Chioma noticed the unwritten rule: no one used toilet block F after 7 p.m. One evening, the final bell rang, a long, echoing clang that marked lights out. But unlike usual, the hostel was tense. Earlier that afternoon, a senior named Amaka had gone to toilet block F and hadn't returned for over an hour. When she did come back, her face was pale and she refused to speak. Her friends had noticed a faint red mark, a handprint, on her cheek. That night, after the bell, a strange silence wrapped around the hostel. The usual giggles and rustling of contraband biscuits were replaced by stiff, anxious whispers. And then it came. Koi, Koi, Koi. The sound wasn't loud. It wasn't distant either. It was as if it echoed from the very walls, clicking in perfect rhythm with the pounding heartbeats of every girl listening. Chioma, ever defiant, stood up. "It's just seniors trying to scare us," she muttered. But the older girls knew better. Their eyes said everything. The sound was getting closer. The Koi Koi phenomenon had begun. The next day, after classes, Chioma was the center of attention. Her boldness from the previous night had made her an instant sensation among the juniors. But among the seniors, it was a different story. They watched her with a quiet, almost pitiful look, not of admiration, but of warning. "Keep playing, Chioma," one of the SS3 girls, Uche, said during prep. "Keep daring Koi Koi. She likes people who call her bluff." Chioma rolled her eyes, but inside, something tugged at her confidence. The sound of those footsteps last night still echoed in her mind. Too real, too synchronized. It wasn't just a prank, was it? That evening, as the sun dipped and shadows lengthened over St. Mary's, a group of juniors gathered in Hostel Block B's common room. Chioma was among them, flanked by her close friends, Nkem, Adiz, and Ifyinanya. "We need to prove this is all fake," Kim whispered, glancing nervously towards the corridor leading to toilet block F. "Ow," Adiz asked, fidgeting with her rosary. "You want us to go there at night?" "No," Chioma interrupted, a mischievous glint in her eyes. "We'll go now. Daylight. Nothing can happen in broad daylight." But Ifyinanya, the quietest of them all, was the first to challenge her. "It's not the time of day that matters. It's the mirror." Everyone fell silent. "The mirror dare," Ifyinanya continued, her voice low. "That's how Madame Koi Koi reveals herself. You stand in front of the bathroom mirror, spin 3 times, and chant her name. If she wants you, she'll come." Chioma smirked. "Perfect. Let's go." Toilet block F was infamous. Located at the farthest edge of the hostel grounds, it stood isolated, with cracked walls and rusting doors. Despite being daytime, the air inside was cold, unnaturally cold. The once white tiles were now stained with grime, and the overhead fluorescent light flickered as if struggling to stay alive. The group shuffled inside, their footsteps sounding louder than they should in the eerie silence. They stopped in front of the mirror. It was large, stretching across the length of the sinks, but the glass was fogged, as if constantly breathing. You could barely see your reflection, and Kim's voice trembled. "We don't have to do this." Chioma's smile had faded, but pride, stubbornness, or perhaps a deeper curiosity pushed her forward. "I'll go first." She stood before the mirror, took a deep breath, and began. "Madam Koi Koi, Madam Koi Koi, Madam Koi Koi." Spin once, spin twice, spin thrice. Silence. For a moment, there was only the sound of her friend's anxious breathing. "See?" Chioma turned, forcing a grin. "Nothing." Slap. The sound was deafening. Everyone jumped. But it wasn't Chioma who was hit. It was Adiz. A red handprint, vivid and fresh, appeared across her cheek as if struck by an invisible force. She screamed, stumbling backward, her rosary falling to the ground. The lights flickered violently. Then they heard it. Koi, koi, koi. Not from the hallway, not from the distance. It was coming from the stalls behind them. One by one, the stall doors began to creak open slowly. No hands, no wind, just the sound of heavy, deliberate movement. "Ifyananya, this isn't funny," Chioma hissed, but Ifyananya was already clutching Kim, tears welling in her eyes. They turned to run, but the bathroom door slammed shut, locking itself with a sharp metallic clang. Then came the whispers. Chioma, Adiz, Kim, Ifyananya, each name spoken in a raspy, mocking tone, as if the very walls knew who they were. Adiz, still shaking, muttered, "She knows our names. She knows we called her." Chioma's bravado cracked. "We have to get out. Now." But the mirror was no longer reflecting them. It showed 4 empty bathroom stalls, one for each of them. And in the 5th stall at the very end, a woman stood. Red heels. Blood-red heels. Koi, koi, koi. The bathroom door was still locked. The girls huddled together, their backs pressed against the damp, grimy tiles. Every breath they took seemed too loud, as if the air itself had turned against them. The lights flickered in rapid, mocking patterns, sometimes illuminating the cracked floor, sometimes plunging them into brief, suffocating darkness. And then the whispers began. Not loud, not urgent, but clear. So clear. "Chioma, Chioma, why don't you come closer?" The voice was smooth, almost gentle, as if it were a mother calling a child. But it slithered through the air, wrapping around Chioma's spine and freezing her in place. She wanted to reply, to shout back in defiance, but her throat was dry. She couldn't move. "Don't answer her," Kim hissed, her grip tightening around Chioma's arm. Another whisper. This time, Adiz's name. "Adiz, Adiz, I see you." Adiz whimpered, clutching her burning cheek, the mark of the invisible slap still vivid and raw. From the stalls, they heard movement, slow, deliberate shifting, like someone dragging something heavy across the floor. Koi, koi, koi. But this time, the sound wasn't footsteps. It was nails, long, sharp nails scraping against the tiles, mimicking the clicking sound of heels. Ifyananya was the first to break. "I can't stay here," she cried, lunging toward the bathroom door, pounding her fists against it. "Let's out, please." The door remained unmoved, but something else responded. The whisper shifted, now calling, "Ifyananya, Ifyananya, come to stall 3." Her legs trembled. "No!" Chioma grabbed her, yanking her back, but Ifyananya's eyes had gone glassy, her body swaying as if in a trance. "She's trying to pull us in," and Kim muttered. "She calls your name, and if you respond, you're hers." The stalls creaked again. This time, stall 3, Ifyananya's assigned stall, the one she always used before lights out, began to open wider. Beyond the door, there was no toilet, no floor, just darkness. Thick, pulsating darkness that seemed to breathe. "Don't look," Chioma shouted, turning Ifyananya's face away, but it was too late. Ifyananya had seen it, and it was calling her. Suddenly, the bathroom mirror flashed. For a brief second, The girls saw their reflections, but something was wrong. Their reflections weren't moving. They were frozen in place, except for their eyes that darted in panic, mouthing silent screams as if trapped behind glass. Then, the reflections began to vanish, one by one. And Kim was the first. Her reflection blurred, smudging into a red streak, as if wiped away by an unseen hand. In the stall behind them, the whisper came again, louder, firmer. "Kim, it's your turn." "No, no, no," Kim whispered, sliding down the wall, her knees buckling under terror. Suddenly, the overhead lights surged, humming loudly before bursting, plunging the bathroom into darkness. But the whispers didn't stop. They multiplied, countless voices calling each of their names, over and over, from every direction, as if the very walls had learned to speak. Chioma's mind raced. They needed to fight back. They needed to break the cycle. But how? Amaka, the senior who had returned with a slap the night before. She survived. How? Chioma's hand found the cold, cracked porcelain of a sink. She gripped it tight, grounding herself. "We don't answer her," she said, louder now, though her voice still trembled. "No matter what we hear, no matter who calls." But the bathroom had other plans. Suddenly, the stall doors slammed shut, all at once, with a force that shook the walls. Then silence. For a moment, it was as if everything had stopped. Then, from the final stall, the one no one dared to use, came a single, soft whisper. "Chioma, I'm waiting." The air inside toilet block F felt heavier, as if every breath was an effort. The whisper from the last stall had called Chioma by name. It wasn't loud, but it was personal. It was surgical, slicing through her defenses like a blade through soft fabric. Chioma clenched her fists, her fingernails digging into her palms. She could feel her friends trembling beside her, their backs pressed against the same cold tiles. But for the first time, she realized something horrifying. The whispers weren't targeting all of them anymore. They were singling her out. Then came the footsteps. But these weren't the rhythmic coy heel clicks they'd heard before. No, these were softer, closer, like the sound of bare feet slapping against wet tiles. The sound moved from stall to stall, pausing, then continuing as if something or someone was searching for a specific door to open. "Chioma," the voice whispered again, this time laced with an unsettling sweetness. "You're so brave. I like brave girls." Suddenly, Adiz gasped. "Chioma, your reflection." Chioma turned toward the mirror, heart pounding. Her reflection was gone. The mirror still showed Nkim, Ifyananya, and Adiz, huddled together in fear. But Chioma's space was empty. Not blurred, not smudged, simply gone. Then, out of nowhere, a deafening slap echoed through the bathroom. It wasn't soft. It wasn't distant. It was brutal. It cracked through the air like a whip. But it wasn't Chioma who felt it. Adiz's body convulsed as her head snapped to the side, her cheek instantly blooming with a fresh, red handprint. The force of the slap sent her sprawling onto the grimy floor tiles, gasping for breath. "Adiz!" Ifyananya shrieked, tried to pull her up. But Adiz's eyes were wide, frozen in shock. The handprint on her face began to burn, the skin blistering as if seared by something far hotter than flesh. She's chosen me," Adiz whispered, her voice hollow. Chioma shook her head violently. "No, don't say that. We're all getting out of here together." But deep inside, Chioma knew the truth. The slap wasn't just an attack. It was a mark, a claim. Adiz was marked now. The bathroom door suddenly creaked open, just a crack. A faint breeze swept through, chilling their skin. But no one dared to move. The door hadn't been opened by them. It was an invitation. Adiz struggled to her feet, her legs weak and unsteady. I can't fight her," she whispered, her fingers grazing the edge of her burning cheek. "She's in my head, calling me." Chioma grabbed her, forcing Adiz to meet her eyes. "Don't listen to her. You're still here. You're still with us." But the bathroom had gone eerily silent again, the tension so thick it felt like a physical weight pressing down on them. That's when they noticed it. Adiz's shadow. It wasn't moving with her. It stood still, even as she trembled. and slowly, the shadow began to peel away from her feet, stretching unnaturally towards the open stall at the end of the row. "No," Kim whispered, backing away. The shadow slipped into the stall and vanished. Adi's body went rigid. Then, with mechanical slowness, she turned and began walking, her footsteps eerily in sync with the familiar coy rhythm. She wasn't resisting. She wasn't crying. She was calm. "Stop her!" Ifeanyi screamed, but their legs wouldn't move. It was as if the entire bathroom had turned to quicksand, rooting them to the spot as Adiz reached the final stall. She didn't hesitate. She stepped inside. The stall door shut with a soft, almost polite click. Silence. Chioma broke free first, sprinting to the stall and yanking it open. Empty. Adiz was gone. No scream. No struggle. Just gone. In the mirror, the girls saw their reflections again. But now only 3 remained. And the whispers returned, now colder, more impatient. "Kim, Ifeanyi, Chioma, who's next?" The bathroom felt impossibly still after Adiz vanished. There was no lingering echo of her footsteps, no fading whispers, just a cold, suffocating silence that pressed against the girls' chests. Chioma's fists pounded against the walls of the stall where Adiz had disappeared. "No, this isn't happening," she cried, yanking the door open and shut, as if by some miracle Adiz would reappear. But the stall was as empty as before, its shadows deepening as if they were swallowing light. Kim sat on the floor, hugging her knees, her eyes unfocused. They say if you enter Block F at night, you're never really gone. You're trapped, stuck in a moment you step inside. "What do you mean?" Chioma snapped, spinning around. "My cousin told me," and Kim whispered, trembling. "There were girls, years ago, who vanished here. They never found their bodies. But sometimes seniors say they see them, standing in the mirrors, repeating the same thing over and over like they don't know they're trapped." Chioma felt a chill snake down her spine. It wasn't just Madame Koi haunting this place. It was a loop, a cycle, a cursed time trap. Ifeanyi wiped her tears with shaky hands. "Then we need to get out of here, before we get stuck too." But the bathroom had other plans. The mirror began to flicker again. This time, it didn't show reflections of the present. It showed moments. Adiz brushing her hair in the hostel. Amaka stepping into the bathroom the day before, her face contorted in silent screams as an unseen hand struck her. Then, it showed something else. A teacher. Her face was obscured by long, flowing hair. But those blood-red heels were unmistakable. She stood in front of the mirror, applying lipstick with slow, deliberate strokes. The students, dozens of them, stood behind her reflection, their faces pale, lifeless, their eyes pleading. One by one, each girl faded into the mirror's fog, except Madame Koi. She turned, as if sensing the girls watching from the real world. Chioma felt her heart stop as their eyes met, not through glass, but through reality itself. Koi. The stall doors behind them rattled violently, slamming open and shut in rapid succession. It was like a countdown. "Chioma, we have to go," Kim screamed, pulling at her friend's arm. But Chioma's feet wouldn't move, because suddenly, the bathroom didn't feel like the bathroom anymore. The air was wrong. The light was wrong. She glanced at her wristwatch. It had stopped. The second hand stuck at 7:03 p.m., the moment they had entered the bathroom. Time wasn't moving. They were trapped. "It's the phenomenon," Ifeanyi whispered, her voice distant. "Once you hear your name, you're caught in her loop. She plays with time, over and over, until you either disappear or become one of the reflections." Panic set in, but Chioma, ever the defiant one, clenched her fists. No, we're not her toys. She scanned the room, her eyes darting to the lone window high above the sinks. It was small, rusted, but it was real. Real in a place that was no longer obeying real-world rules. "That window," Chioma pointed, "it's our way out." Kim's face paled. "That's barely big enough for a cat. I'm not asking you to fit through it. I'm asking you to break it." But before they could move, a deafening crack echoed through the bathroom. The mirror had fractured. Not shattered, fractured. Long, jagged cracks spiderwebbed across its surface, distorting their reflections into grotesque shapes. In one shard, Chioma saw herself, but older, her eyes hollow, her lips mouthing the same words over and over. "Welcome to Block F," Ifeanyi screamed, pulling Chioma back. "She's pulling us in. The mirror's trying to trap us." But Chioma's gaze locked onto something hidden in the cracked reflection, a faint glimmer behind the farthest stall. A maintenance hatch, their only chance. "Follow me," Chioma hissed, adrenaline surging. She led them toward the last stall, the same stall Adiz had vanished into, praying Madame Koi Koi hadn't anticipated their defiance. But Madame Koi Koi was done whispering. The stall door slammed shut before they reached it. And from a mirror, her voice thundered. "You can't leave until you're part of the reflection." The moment Madame Koi Koi's voice thundered from a mirror, the bathroom lights exploded in a violent shower of sparks, plunging everything into choking darkness. But it wasn't a silence that followed. It was movement. Koi, Koi, Koi. The sound of those haunting footsteps echoed once again. But this time, they weren't confined to toilet block F. They were everywhere, corridors, stairwells, dormitories, as if the walls of the school had become a drum for Madame Koi Koi's relentless march. Chioma gritted her teeth. "We need to get out of here. Now." Kim's eyes darted to the window above. "We'll never reach it in time. She's coming." But Chioma was already scanning the cracked mirror, searching for the faint shimmer she had noticed, the maintenance hatch behind the last stall. "She wants us to panic," Chioma said, her voice steady despite the chaos. "That's how she wins. But there's a way out. We just have to stop reacting and start thinking." Suddenly, the bathroom door, the same one that had been sealed shut, swung open with a groan. But it wasn't freedom on the other side. It was darkness, a corridor that shouldn't exist. Yet from that darkness, they could hear it, the Koi Koi parade. It wasn't just Madame Koi Koi's footsteps now. There were dozens, maybe hundreds of footsteps, all in perfect unison. Each step echoed with hollow finality, like a march of forgotten souls trapped in an endless loop. And then, figures began to emerge from the dark hallway. Students, their faces pale, their eyes void of life, each moving mechanically, their feet stepping in rhythm. Koi, Koi, Koi. Among them, Chioma spotted Adiz. Her expression was vacant, her body swaying as if pulled by invisible strings. Ifeanyi clapped a hand over her mouth to muffle a sob. "They're all hers." The Koi Koi parade moved slowly, deliberately, filling the bathroom, crowding the space with spectral bodies that didn't blink, didn't breathe, but marched as if bound by a curse older than the school itself. Chioma pulled Nkem and Ifeanyi back toward the stalls, retreating as the ghostly parade advanced. "This is her power," Nkem whispered, horrified. "She doesn't just kill, she collects." Chioma's mind raced. The maintenance hatch, if they could reach it, they might escape the cycle. But Madame Koi Koi wasn't finished. From within the mirror's fractured surface, she emerged. Her heels, gleaming red like fresh blood, clicked once as she stepped onto the tiled floor. She was tall, towering even, draped in a faded, tattered teacher's uniform, but it was her face that paralyzed them. She had no eyes, just hollow, endless sockets that seemed to consume light. Her lips, painted a garish crimson, stretched into a smile that didn't belong on any human face. She extended her hand, palm up. "Chioma, you dare me. You call me. Now, you'll lead my parade." The whisper wasn't external. It vibrated inside Chioma's skull. But Chioma was done being afraid. Grabbing a loose, rusted pipe from a nearby sink, she hurled it at the mirror with all her strength. The glass shattered. The bathroom quaked violently. The parade faltered, their synchronized steps breaking rhythm as the space around them seemed to fracture. Madame Koi Koi's smile twisted into a snarl. "Run!" Chioma screamed, pushing Kim and Ifeanyi toward the now visible maintenance hatch. They dove into the stall, Chioma kicking the panel with desperate force until it gave way, revealing a narrow crawl space. One by one, they scrambled through, the sound of the crumbling mirror and Madame Koi Koi's enraged footsteps echoing behind them. The crawl space was suffocating, but ahead, a faint glow appeared. Freedom, or so they hoped. As they emerged from the hatch, gasping, they found themselves back in the hostel corridor. But something was wrong. It was eerily silent. The familiar chatter, the shouts, even the rustling of mosquito nets were absent. The walls seemed off. The posters were faded, the lights dimmed. It was the hostel, but not their hostel. Chioma looked at the wall clock. 7:03 p.m. Again, they had escaped the bathroom, but they were still in Madame Koi Koi's time loop. And somewhere in the distance, the parade had resumed. Koi, Koi, Koi. The hostel corridor was silent, yet alive with an invisible tension. Every fluorescent bulb hummed like a ticking time bomb. The clock on the wall still read 7:03 p.m., its second hand twitching uselessly. Chioma, Kim, and Ifeanyi stood frozen, the cold air clinging to their skin like a warning. "We're still inside it," Kim whispered, her voice shaking. "We didn't escape. We just moved deeper in her loop." Ifeanyi's eyes darted down the hallway. "She's playing with us. She knows we'll run. She wants to tire us out." Chioma clenched her fists, refusing to let fear take over again. "We're done running. We need to break her cycle." But the question hung in the air like a noose. How? Suddenly, from the far end of the corridor, a soft clicking began. Koi, Koi, Koi. The parade was coming, but it wasn't just ghostly students anymore. The shadows on the walls morphed and twisted, their forms stretching unnaturally. It was as if Madame Koi Koi had fused with the school itself, turning every corridor, every mirror, every tick of the clock into her hunting ground. "Wait," Ifeanyi said suddenly, pulling Chioma's arm. "Remember what Amaka said before she left school? She told us Madame Koi Koi's power isn't in the shoes. It's in the reflection. That's why the mirrors trap you." Chioma's mind raced. If it's the mirrors feeding her, then maybe we can starve her. They ran into the nearest dormitory, a large hall lined with bunk beds and a massive mirror at the end. This mirror was different. It was old, ornate, a relic from when the school was first built. And it was humming. In its surface, they didn't see themselves. They saw the parade, endlessly marching. Adiz was there, her empty eyes staring back at them, silently pleading. "She's here," Kim whispered. Chioma scanned the room, her eyes landing on a small, metal offering bell hanging near the mirror. It had been there for years, a meaningless decoration, or so everyone thought. But now it glowed faintly. "That bell," Chioma said, "it's older than Madame Koi Koi's legend. Maybe it was meant to seal her." The parade's clicking footsteps grew louder, nearer. "We ring it together," Chioma ordered, "and we focus. Not on her, on us, on being here, on being real." The three girls grasped the cold metal bell, their hands trembling. As the first ghostly figures of the parade stepped into the dormitory, Chioma counted. 1, 2, 3. They rang the bell. The sound wasn't loud. It was sharp, pure, slicing through the heavy atmosphere like a blade through silk. The mirror reacted instantly. Cracks snaked across its surface as if recoiling in pain. Madame Koi Koi's figure appeared, her red heels sinking into the glass, struggling to maintain her grip on the reality she had corrupted. "No," her voice thundered, not as a whisper, but as a scream of fury and desperation. "You called me. You don't get to send me back." The girls rang the bell again. This time, the parade faltered. The ghostly students stumbled, their synchronized steps breaking apart. Adiz's form flickered, her lifeless expression softening into one of shock. Then the mirror began to shatter. One by one, shards rained onto the floor, each piece freeing a trapped reflection. The hum in the walls faded, replaced by the distant sound of actual life. Distant chatter, the rustle of hostile curtains, the chirp of crickets. Madame Koi Koi's body contorted as she was pulled back into the collapsing mirror, her shriek turning into a hollow echo. With one final, deafening ring of the bell, the mirror exploded, sending a wave of cold air that knocked the girls backward. Silence, but not the suffocating silence from before. It was a normal silence. The hostel clock ticked to 7:04 p.m. Time had moved. The loop was broken. Chioma opened her eyes to see Adiz lying on the floor nearby, gasping for breath. I heard you," Adiz whispered, tears rolling down her face. "I thought I'd never get out." The girls collapsed into a heap, laughing, crying, too exhausted to process what had just happened. But Chioma's gaze shifted to the shattered remains of the mirror. Among the shards, she noticed one piece, small, yet perfectly intact. In it, Madame Koi Koi's red heel clicked once and vanished. The phenomenon was broken. For now.